whole meeting on Wednesday, November 5th, 2025 to order, and I will ask Diane to do the roll call.
Trustee Fluger,
Present.
trustee Hess,
Present.
trustee Hummel,
Present.
trustee O'Connor,
Excuse,
trustee Radke,
excuse.
and trustee Zerflu.
Here.
Okay. We will do, public comments as, per our ordinance, public comments is 3 minutes, and it looks like Larry is the only one that wants to speak here. Does anybody online want to speak? Just
Mike or Teresa, do you guys like to speak?
Yeah, I would like to speak at some point.
Sounds like I'm muted.
Teresa, you gotta unmute yourself, please.
I don't think I'm muted, am I? Can you not hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Is it close?
Is the volume just all the way down?
Jeez, that's 76.
Huh.
Mike, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Scott,
can you hear me now?
I got you guys. Yep, I can hear everybody.
Did anybody online want to speak during public comment?
I do.
Okay.
Madam President, point of order. Would you be willing to, if anybody's wanting to talk about the budget, postponing their comments until the budget item comes up so that the Wisconsin Rapids, fire chief and mayor can do their.
We
first?
can do that. I was just trying to make sure that I have
Oh,
everybody,
okay.
that wants to speak. So Teresa wants to speak. Scott or Mike, did you want to speak? Sorry.
Can I reserve my right to speak?
We
Or do I have to
typically just
commit
try
now?
to,
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things.
okay, just so we have your guys' names down, and then we will come back to public comment without objection. We'll move that after the presentation from the Wisconsin Rapids Mayor and Fire Chief. Is that okay with everybody?
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Then we'll move down to number 5, the presentation from Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Matt Zacher and Fire Chief Boudreau on the EMS services. So you gentlemen can join us at the table if you'd like, or you can stand wherever you're comfortable.
But if you've received a contract, you, I just updated a lot of that to reflect the village of Port Edwards, and then to go over some of the changes that were here last. And that way you can see everything.
Sure.
You call them.
Sorry, I mean, Jim,
Yeah, the contract we have in the packet, the one that was sent over Monday.
that's the one you sent over Monday.
The one that was sent over Monday is what the contract's in the packet.
Okay, and I hope that that's the same one that we had, so, you know, I wanna be transparent with anything that might have changed from that, so feel free to take the one I have, and review it with the one that you had on Monday. It shouldn't be drastically different. I'm trying to remember if we changed anything at all.
Did you get a copy?
Between Monday and now, but a lot of it was the feedback that we got from other municipalities that kind of drove a lot of the conversation. And any changes that we had from the original one that said draft on it, and now the one that says that doesn't have draft. So we'll be careful with the mayor speak to the greater cooperative that we're looking to kind of pitch for EMS services. We were down here a month ago.
Month ago, yep.
And just had kind of an informal conversation about it, and then we're invited today. So I thank you all, trustees, clerk, and Madam President, for having us down here at your meeting, be guests in your village.
Yeah, I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for the work that you guys do. I know it takes a lot of time out of your schedules, the family and work life. So thank you for being here for your community. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning. For me, I was alderman for 3 years. The first year, I've been mayor for 1.5 years now. Before that, 3 years as alderman. First year as alderman, at that time, the fire department brought to us and said, they wanted to take on the area, outside areas as contracted areas. You know, yeah, going through the formalities, asked a bunch of questions, find out where we're at. main question being, do we need to hire more people in order to do this? And at that time, we were told, no, we won't have to bring on any more people. A year later, they came back and said, we need to bring on more people. So we ended up going through the formalities and decided to bring on 3 more people, 1 for each of the crews that are there. So added another tier that brought us to 12 tiers at that time. So the money that we were making on the contracted areas at that time paid for those 3 new people. Since then, the call volume continues to go up, not just in contracted areas, but more for everybody. So for the city itself, also for the contracted areas, we're up to about 5,000 calls per year right now. So when we get to this point, we know that we need more personnel. When I first became mayor, the fire department or EMS department actually came to me, well, it's a combination of both, and said we had talked at that time about a referendum for 9 new firefighters, which would have been about $1 million. And so obviously that sparked a huge conversation about, okay, if this is the case and it's gonna be this much money, we really need to talk as a broader community and find out what are the possibilities that we can go down, what avenues can we go down? We gotta talk to each other about it, because really it's a problem for all of us, and it's not just our area, it's for the entire state. At that time, the old chief had left and Bennett's been hired as the new chief. We were talking quite a bit, putting our heads together and figure things out. We met with a gentleman from the state named James Smalls, who did a lot of work bringing communities together, trying to figure out if it's just contracts or if it's a district, EMS district, what that looks like. And, we got a lot of ideas from him, but ultimately we ran the exercise with our finance department and said, okay, if we separated EMS from the fire department completely, so that we could understand the finances behind what it would cost to run a district where we all participated in it together, what would that look like? And then you're talking about buildings and the machinery that go with the equipment, all the paramedics, the wages, the benefits. When it was all put together, that price came to per capita about $126 per capita for everybody. So then we go back to the drawing board, because we're not gonna come to the communities, outside communities, and say we need $126. We weren't even gonna have that conversation. Because we, being over 10,000 people, have to have a certain size fire department, have to have a certain size EMS department. So there's a lot of things that we can't put on you guys that we have to have for ourselves. Went back to the drawing board. I think, we came up with many other ideas, Ben and myself and whoever else was part of the conversation. And somewhere along the way, the conversation veered towards what if we talk to the communities about if in the end which is what the numbers show, if we're at 5,000, the outlying community contracts, their call volume equals about 1,250, between 1,000 and 1,250, depending on the year. So it's about 20 to 25% of our call volume. And we're running 4 ambulances, and we have crews for 4 ambulances. So the thought was, well, if it's about a quarter of the percent of our call volume, why don't we talk about they've already funded 3 paramedics with the existing contract. What if we talk to them about funding 3 paramedics, 6 paramedics total, so 2 per crew, and then 1 ambulance every 12 years. So that's kind of where, and we talked about it, but really the big driver here was we went to the council a couple of times, and the council was kind of leaning towards we shouldn't even offer contracts if it's getting this expensive and we need to take care of our own residents in our own community. We shouldn't even offer contracts. And I didn't necessarily love the way that was going. I thought the best opportunity here for all of us would be to come up with a solution that was transparent and favorable for everybody. So they allowed us this avenue. We brought this avenue to them, and they agreed to see what you guys would think about it if we brought it to you. So that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of trying to work with our council, but also work with all of your councils or boards to have this conversation. So what the numbers came to when we ran this exercise, it was three new firefighters or three new paramedics being brought on, and their entry level pay was 64,766, and the benefits are about 24,740 with a total of 89,500. And then we're looking at the closest to 5 year veterans, but just over the 5 year period. Like, we're not gonna ask you guys to fund the veterans because the longer they're there, the more it costs. So we figured this was a fair medium. And for those three, it would be 81,644 and 46,373 for a total of 128,1779. And then the ambulance broken down over that time, we averaged, we put it out at 315,000. Again, that's every 12 years. So broken down by that 12 years was 26,250. So in the end, the total at the bottom was 678, 823, 21. That then was broken down by the existing contracts that we hold, which is 7 communities. And that per capita came to $56 per capita. And from there, I guess we looked at it too. I'll throw this in there as a caveat. Being a business owner myself for the last 20 years and still knowing that private entity is, very important to our economy. We know that there's private ambulance services out there. And we didn't necessarily, I personally didn't feel good when we were directly competing with them. And this basically, in my opinion, says we're putting it at a rate that's fair and transparent to what services you're paying for. But it's, it's not apples to apples in terms of the comparison to the price of the private company. So in the end, the communities have to make their decision if they want our services and what we're able to provide with the 2 paramedic system, with backup ambulances at the beck and call. And the training that they go through in order to do what they do. That's a service that you're paying for. And also run the risk that if you don't want that, then you would let us know and you would go in a different direction. And then we would know which direction we have to go and deal with, the loss of money coming in and funding the 3 that we already hired a couple of years back. So at this point, I can turn it over to Ben, or I can field questions also.
Yeah, we can still stay with this first packet that has kind of that narrative on the front. It's just a narrative that was built off of pretty much everything that the mayor had said. It's really a mutual commitment that we kind of laid out here, and that was what was most important to us. When the mayor and I sat down, we tried to look at it from the perspective of each one of these communities and rising costs with everything else and competing interests in the communities. From sitting down with Ben, last month, you had just gone through a revamp of some of your trash pickup. So we understand there's a lot of those issues that come up in municipalities. EMS being one of them, that's expensive, and that kind of gets to the rising costs here that we're asking for. The mayor and I also discussed quite a bit the fact that you guys are already in an EMS contract with us for another 2 years. Dropping or asking you to amend a contract mid-contract, we didn't feel as though it was right. We wouldn't like that to be done to us, and I think that honoring that really shows our commitment to this cooperative, that we want to see your contract through at the rate that you have and that you signed to. But then going forward, we wanted to have this discussion earlier than not. If we have to apologize for anything, it's how slow our city kind of reacted to this as it kind of came down to the wire. And now we're here in November having these discussions, whereas the mayor and I would have much rather had these discussions midsummer with a lot of the municipalities who are up for the negotiation. So
It wasn't for lack of effort, though.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like, it's been a good battle on our side too, trying to get this far with this, so.
So when we built that out, there's a lot of verbiage, a lot of numbers on the back. That just kind of breaks down from our financial piece, what this project costs. And then to be able to go forward with that, we had to be able to balance that project cost with the per capita as indicated. Again, at the bottom of that sheet, it kind of talks about the cost associated with running an EMS agency, which we're not placing on this cooperative, to include but not limited to kind of liability coverage, recertification and licensure, the training that our staff has to go through, and all that EMS equipment that really drives a lot of the prices. Just normal administrative duties as well. Again, we're, you know, I love talking about our fire department and our EMS agency because we are one of the best. So give me that privilege just for a second. We are one of 3 CAS accredited EMS agencies in the state, and one of the first, and we're up for reaccreditation next year. So really, I kind of put our service up against any in the state for what we offer and have offered for your community for the last few years as well. So that's kind of that sheet. And then if you had any questions on that for the mayor and I, if not, we can always move to the contract stuff and talk about a little bit more of the details and what that cooperative looks like and what drove those conversations.
Any questions as of right now?
Yeah.
Trustee Hummel.
First of all, thanks for the due diligence and in coming with what you're solving for and also why you're doing that. With the 7 communities that you're serving, is there, what's the variation in call volume in those 7?
Sure.
I didn't look at the details here, but you have that probably.
Yeah, that's all laid out on that page there.
Okay,
I didn't lay out demographics, because obviously it would get vast. The falls and chest pain, shortness of breath are typically the top 3 for calls of service. But then on the sheet itself, call volume, I think your community had 101 calls for service last year, EMS calls for service. But it varies obviously widely, pretty based on populations. For example, Saratoga had just over 350, inclusive 300 calls for service. So there's a lot of factors that drive the need for EMS services. Sometimes it's, you know, community needs that aren't being met, but other times it's socioeconomics or just normal health problems.
Sure, understood.
that exist.
was there any consideration to offering a price point for that variation, or did you lump them all together and are charging everybody the same?
We felt that that was the most equitable in the sense that everyone, kind of like an insurance policy, you know, it would be very difficult to underwrite per se every community's risk assessment. They would have to go through, you know, kind of a third party to identify what that risk factor is and then write a separate contract. To that end, you know, the mayor and I talked about that. We really think it would be inequitable and not very cooperative in nature if we were to offer different prices for different communities based on, you know, their changing needs and demographics. So that's kind of what drove that. But we really felt as though that once we found the number of $56, it kind of drove, you know, something home to us is that $56 is a lot less than you pay every month for, say, a cell phone, but you expect it to work. So to here, you know, $56 for every community member to have an advanced life support EMS ambulance at your beck and call anytime. It's a pretty low price in our opinion, but again, rising costs and everything else competing. I don't want to speak for your community.
I think what you described is you think it's inequitable to charge different rates. You kind of stole my point that I think it's unequitable to have, to not have that, but understood your reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the risk or the big picture to this, you know, is the more people involved in it, the lesser the price is, you know, per person. So it kind of, the model kind of works on a cooperative effort, in terms of
Yeah.
if all the communities that we're working with right now per capita, that's where it drives that $56 number. Whereas if a community falls out, especially one of the bigger ones, that does impact our decision-making in terms of, how we move forward.
So basically, you're kind of pooling those 7, just like an insurance company pools subscribers together. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like everyone's pooling their money to hire 6 paramedics and 1 ambulance to service their area, knowing that they have a backup 3, like in part of that service. So it's not like this ambulance and these 6 firefighters will be the outlying communities. It'll be the mix of all at that point, 39 paramedic firefighters. I guess in the big picture, that's how it looks, is everybody's pooling their money to hire the services that are there.
One last question. Would this increase the assessment rate of Wisconsin Rapids citizens?
think the project in total, maybe to answer your question best, is the project in totality is looked at as a balance effect. So in the event that, let's say theoretically, none of the outside agencies or municipalities want to go with the EMS services offered by Wisconsin Rapids, we would have to make internally some adjustments to balance our books. So, while it's a shared resource for all the communities, we also benefit from it, as well. So, but to that end, from the perspective that we looked at it, from a municipality or village of, say, Port Edwards, if you have one call, in EMS, the 911 EMS call in your community, and 10 minutes into that call, there's another one, you're not paying for just that one ambulance to come down here. We'll service you with 2, 3, 4, as many as you need sequentially. So although you're not paying for the services beyond theoretically the one, that's where you really kind of get your bang for your buck, because we have the services to provide you with more than one, say a vehicle accident or whatever else.
I understood that. I guess I'm still not clear. And I've been following your budget process, which is,
Little hairy.
good luck. But is there an expectation that the assessment rates for residents in Wisconsin Rapids is going to go up? And then would this encourage some increase? Is that, because it will us.
Yeah, and I don't know.
When you say assessment, you're talking about the assessed value of the houses, or what do you mean by?
Yeah, like the mill rate and et cetera, et cetera. Is that gonna go up or?
Well, okay, so the money that we were bringing in from the contracts was paying for 3 paramedics, roughly speaking, 3 paramedics already. So the mill rate would have covered the other 33 firefighters. And then the money coming in would have covered those. Again, it's not as simple as that, but roughly speaking, that's what it would have looked like. So we bring on 3 more paramedics. And what we get from the communities covers those 3. It shouldn't change our mill rate at all, is I guess what it comes down to. Although we have other issues with our budget right now that we're gonna have to deal with, so there's a bigger picture to that, but just speaking about this shouldn't, that's what we're trying not to do, is
So it's
try not to
it's a
put the
rounding
money
error
on our
for the other issues you have.
say that again, sorry.
It's a rounding error increase, compared to the other things you're trying to address.
I suppose, I think the way we're trying to sell it to the council and the community is that they are not paying for year services, which is what they feel like right now. That they're, because what we're getting is only, it's covering the 3 that we weren't supposed to need, but we did need them, and then we paid for them, so it was kind of a wash.
Okay.
So if we bring 3 more on, which is our plan with the money, if everybody agrees, we will hire 3 more paramedics, and those will be paid for by the contract areas, and cover that ambulance staffing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Trustee Hess, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation. Have you gotten feedback from any of the other 6 municipalities?
Yeah.
And because that ultimately will affect the dollars that you
Yeah.
bring in, et cetera.
So far it's looking positive, trying to get through, I think we have 1 more to actually get to the full board and have this conversation. But it seems like everyone's really positive. There's a few, like said, sticking contractual things that they come to us with, and so far we've changed everything because it makes sense to what they're saying. Part of that was, could this be an open-ended contract saying it just automatically renews? And if you want out, you would give a 2-year notice. That gives everybody enough time to adjust, so we're doing it more. That was somebody else's request to see if we would do that. Of course, then our attorney said, well, that's like a 2-year contract, then I guess, and the big picture, but it automatically renews if you don't give your 2-year notice. And that allows us to look out 20, 30 years and figure out what that budget is gonna be, because we wouldn't change this besides the COLA increase and the ambulance increase every year, which we put in this budget. We made an addition to it to say that every year there'll be an adjustment for the wages and the benefits and the ambulance, but it won't exceed 7%. And that everybody was happy with, that wanted that in there just because it gave them room to budget without having to worry about it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, mostly. The contracts for the other areas that are coming due, are they, what term are they? 2-year, 3-year, 5-year?
They're working off of this, contract here, so they're gonna go to a 4-year.
4-year?
Year, and that's like
Similar to what we have.
number one, yep.
Okay,
So it is get a little tricky. The reason it's 4 years is because with a 2-year notice, if you're saying yes in the beginning, you would have to, at the end of that 2 years, give a 2-year notice. So by that time, you're at 4 years. And then
Okay.
after that, it's more like a 2-year notice. And as far as we know, everybody is on board. Can't say that 100%. And realizing you guys and Saratoga are the outliers because we're asking for a commitment, 2 years from now for those following 2 years. So that we know if this is a go or not.
is that the cost of living increase that you talked about built into, because right now we're under contract for 2 more years? And after that, are these $56 gonna be valid, or are you gonna have a cost of living?
No,
increase?
that'll have a cost of living raise, and I kind of point to that as, your municipality as well as Saratoga is kind of the outlier with this contract as presented. That's the only potential change, but again, we would have to sit down with you at that point and be transparent about what those numbers look like as per the contract, and review those. I can already anticipate what the cost of living raise is, because our contractual agreements with the labor organization have already settled at 3.5%, so I'll already know that that's kind of the cap. We, like the mayor said, we wanted to put a ceiling in there, to kind of give both parties a little bit of comfort, knowing that, there's not gonna be this exponential rise some year with our explanation. But again, we have to go on this same formula that we presented today to get that number. And I mean, I could anticipate it to be $58, $59, 2 years from now. Can I answer your question?
Yeah, so I think I heard you correctly. It could affect that $56 per capita.
Yeah.
For a cost of living raise, yeah.
With the COLA.
So the 56 would start this year.
Okay,
And we're looking at compensating, Village of Fort Edwards and Saratoga for the following the next 2 years until you were to get onto the contract that everybody else is on. And then everybody would be on the same page, the same time frame, so that we're all in it together at that point. And we do run the risk too, like if we're taking on the risk, I guess, of hiring the 3 people, and then all of a sudden everybody says, yeah, we're out. We still have to deal with 3 people. We took the risk and we hired them, so.
Any other questions as of right now? And did you guys want to go through the contract more? Is that right?
Yeah, and we talked about the term, which is number 1 there, and obviously, there's a lot of legal language in here, so I'm just gonna kind of highlight the details that are of importance to the contract. You're gonna do your own due diligence afterwards and kind of review, what is pertinent to you, but we talked about that term and how that's working. The payment, we talked about that ceiling was put in there, and the formula, that we're basing the per capita fee on, and how we kind of calculate that, and that's what the mayor kind of described. In number 3, the services provided, so obviously advanced life support 24/7. But in B, there was a stipulation in there that one of our mutual partners reached out and had concern with. The way the contract or the old contracts were written was to state that you could not contract with any other emergency medical service. We altered that to include emergency medical transport service. They were concerned that that would prohibit them from having their own EMR groups, and that's the opposite of what we would like to see. We would like municipalities to have those EMR groups and first responders on scene to assist us, because we see great value in that for patient care and outcomes. So it's definitely a practice as indicated in here that's encouraged. So that was one thing that was altered in that portion. EMS training under that. We're going to continue our monthly trainings. And it's going to be held at a rotating location. So this would just be for EMR groups or first responders, which obviously the Village of Port Edwards has. And the Village of Port Edwards would be the host location. to accommodate, those folks at least twice a year, if not more, depending on where.
Did you check with our chief?
I did. I think he's okay with that. And then another one was,
You got a different angle with it too.
yeah, we don't talk about this. That's been of interest, so. And then that $10 stipend, that's gonna remain in there, for the jurisdictional, response area. One thing that we also got a lot of great feedback for was, we used to have these contracts in place like we do right now. But there was very little communication between the agencies and the municipalities. So new within this contract moving forward, we want to hold quarterly meetings where each municipality can send a representative of their choice to that meeting. We can have dialogue about how things are running, our operations, kind of give you a call volume, top 5 calls or whatever in your service area. And then talk about anything else, whether it's training related or something operationally that you had concern with. Then that gives that dialogue and feedback back to your agencies.
If that presents, when you get through contract renewal, you've got a history of how
Yes,
things were leading up to it.
and then it's not just one meeting at the end of the year, so. That's pretty much it for changes. The rest of it, like I had said, liability, waiver, assignment, force major, all that stuff is kind of legal jargon that obviously remains in the contract, but we didn't really change anything there. So, number 12, I guess I'll point to that, just in the fact that amendments, if you guys were entertaining an amendment, we would probably have to entertain number 12 for any type of amendment mid contract, but that up to you entertaining as a board. So. Any other questions contractually?
Anybody?
Real quick, sorry. How do you get the information, to directly bill a user fee?
So when our providers go on scene, we collect the information from the patient, user of the service. If they're obviously unconscious, then it'll be a delayed collection of that. But we make, what's called a patient care report, that gets billed to their insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever type of, insurance provider they have. And then that goes through our third-party billing company,
Okay,
who we out-contract, and
thank you.
that's to this question.
Anything else? No?
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
did, Nick have an opportunity to look this over? No.
No.
Your recommendation, move forward.
Just personally, I feel we should give it a quick scan.
We can do it. We can send that to our attorney and
Yeah, we're open to any feedback.
just let me cover it on our end too.
You can raise tax.
Wouldn't want to do.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I just want to say, I appreciate you guys coming in. There's been a lot of effort. I know I've had a couple conversations with you guys about this, a lot of effort to kind of like pull the data and kind of see what kind of makes sense. I know it's obviously sticker shock, and I don't think, I think you guys understand that, but obviously because it's on the table, I have to recuse myself from any discussion about this and the voting for obvious reasons, but I just want to put that out there. But I do want to say thank you for coming down here a couple of times. I'm being willing to answer our questions and putting all the information together.
Thanks.
I just got one quick, so obviously the other 4 municipalities are working on their budgets and their contracts as we speak right now.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have those contracts back in hand by early December, correct?
Sooner the better. We're letting them know. I was
Yeah.
giving them some time because we just sent out that final one. And so
So
kind of hoping sooner. We can reach out to you guys as soon as we kind of know what's what. So
We just
you guys know. And I let them know that you guys aren't gonna answer it. They answered what makes sense and they understood that. So,
thank you.
yep.
Section 2, section 5, and section 6 also. Looking at the fine points and especially that quarterly meeting.
You like that?
Yeah.
I think that kind of gets to the nature of this. I mean, I kind of stated this before, it's like, I really don't view the mayor, I'll speak for him here too, but we really don't view this as a contract for service and then walk away and just cash the check. This is, you know, a mutual problem that, I don't say problem, but a mutual service that we want to provide to all communities in the area. And that's why, him and I were so passionate about pushing this forward because, you know, this is an issue we all face with rising needs in communities and this is an expensive service, but at the same time, you know, we want our best for our citizens and to leave you guys out in the wind, you know, to figure out a problem or a solution to this on your own. That would really suck.
Guys did it all, yeah.
Yeah, I've always been told that there's some bad blood between the communities. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But for me, the best way to avoid that is to just sit and talk face to face. So I was, you know, I was all in favor of saying like once a quarter, let's sit down, let's talk and air it out, make sure. We're
Are
on the
they
same
talking
page.
about you and I, our relationship?
I don't know what they were talking about. So I don't know.
That's all airport
This
business, right?
neighbor's very, yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Have fun with budget.
Oh, you too. Okay, we will go back to public comments. I'm assuming most people have the budget, is why they're speaking. So why don't we, start with in the room, Mr. Anthony, if you would like to do yours. And again, it's 3 minutes per our ordinance. We can kind of go from there.
So I've written a letter to the board and I'd like to submit that as correspondence and end of my reading it. To the trustees of the Village of Port Edwards, good evening. I'm Larry Eisenson. I live at 1981 Campfire Trail on Lake Nepco, which I believe makes me the eastmost resident of the Village of Port Edwards. I'm also one of the handful of folks who watch your meetings regularly. So first, I want to thank you for the work you do. I know that a municipal budget is no small task. I've done enough corporate budgets in my life to know that and appreciate what it's like to put 10 pounds of flour in a 5-pound sack. You face a lot of tough choices, especially when dealing with other things like DMI and chickens and weight boats and everything else that you have to do. So your service to the village is really appreciated. That said, I'm here tonight to repeat my appeal to address a significant tax to service imbalance affecting the residents east of the river. Over the past year, I've had dozens of conversations with my neighbors, and the feelings there range from frustration to outright anger. And speaking for myself, I pay taxes to support the Port Edwards Fire Department, even though Grand Rapids would likely be the first to respond to a fire. I pay for the Port Edwards Police Department, even though Wood County would likely respond first to a safety issue. I pay for Public Works and a wheel tax, despite rarely using Port Edwards streets, streetlights, or stormwater services. And on top of that, my neighbors and I pay an HOA fee to maintain our streets, and we pay an additional tax assessment to maintain the lake, which is a public resource for everyone's involved. I understand that being a village resident isn't a pay for service arrangement, and I gladly pay my fair share for the common good because I care about the village in which I live. But this tax situation is unreasonable, and it needs to be addressed in this budget. Since watching the last budget meeting, I have several concerns. First, the village president has said that there's no source of funding to provide relief for residents east of the river. But the village collects $1.4 million in tax revenue and $2.4 million in total revenue every year. So choosing not to allocate funds to a part of their community is a matter of priority. It's not a matter of means. Second, the village administrator mentioned multiple times in that meeting that the village provides services, quote, at a high level. I believe that's not financially sustainable and certainly not equitable when some residents receive a high level of services while others receive limited amount. Third, I emailed this board before the last budget meeting asking that you address this tax for service problem. I was disappointed that that issue wasn't discussed, aside from one trustee briefly acknowledging and repeating my request. That lack of attention needs to change. So in closing, my plea as you prepare this budget is to please represent all residents and taxpayers. Apply creative thinking, make tough choices, and have an open discussion on how to correct this tax for service imbalance. Respectfully, Larry Eisenson, Village of Port Edwards, the president.
Did you say that you, was an email or we're getting your copies of this?
You'll have a copy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, okay. Online, let's see here. Oh, sorry. Can we go with Teresa?
Sure. So I'm Teresa Bousquet, and I apologize because I wished I would have come a little bit more prepared. Larry spoke very eloquently, and I would just echo everything he just said. I'm his neighbor a couple of doors down, and I myself, speaking for myself, I am very frustrated about the tax situation. I feel like my taxes have roughly doubled since we moved over to Port Edwards. I want to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight and for listening to all of us, like Larry and myself. I do appreciate all of you, all of what you do. I'm trying to become more familiar with Port Edwards and better understand Port Edwards. I've actually never been over into that neck of the woods. When I'm typically staying over at the house for the most part. I love my house. I love Nepco Lake, but I feel like I feel like I'm kind of holding on by a thread because of the tax situation. When I had the house built and I talked to my bank about borrowing the money, that we estimated together what my taxes would be for each year. And again, I never anticipated them roughly doubling when we moved to Port Edwards. I feel like I am very frustrated. I'm not angry, but I am very, very frustrated about, we moved over to Port Edwards and the only thing that we really picked up was garbage pickup. Not garbage pickup, but I guess the yard waste pickup. And Ben, I think it's you that I email all the time. I probably drive you crazy, but thank you for coming out and, listening to my emails and always coming by and picking up my stuff. But I would just really, really, really echo what Larry said. I feel like Larry spoke very eloquently and very much to the point. And I would just echo what he said because I don't know if I could say it any better than him. I'm sure I couldn't. And thank you, Larry. Thank you for being there and saying what you did. So that's really all I've got. If I've got any more time, give it to Larry and he can keep talking.
Thank you. I can't remember. Mike, Scott, did you wanted to reserve if you wanted to speak? Did you want to speak, Mike?
Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll speak now if you've got a few minutes to hear me.
Sure. Yep.
And I mean, I'm echoing what Larry said and what Teresa said and talking about the service for the tax imbalance. And when we purchased on Nepco Lake, we knew sooner that after that, we would have to pay the higher tax of moving from Saratoga to Port Edwards. And at the time, though, we were getting some rather optimistic comments from the Port Edwards board at that time that there are possible things we could benefit from on the service side, and those now have not materialized. The roads was one of those. And so we're paying a lot more than we did before, and we're not getting much more in services at all for it. And, the cost in Port Edwards is pretty high due to your declining tax base. And we understand that. But are there things we can do in Port Edwards to increase our tax base or reduce our services? I mean, just like we share the fire department, can we share other services? Or on the extreme side, can we merge with some other town or village so we can get back the critical mass Port Edwards had before they started losing businesses? I mean, we are paying a huge premium and not getting the services. So what are the options to reduce the taxes? That's my point.
Thank you.
Can I say one last thing? I don't think I used up my full 3 minutes. Can I just make one last comment? Um, sorry, but the other thing that I kind of feel like, and maybe Larry mentioned it, but I feel like we're almost kind of subsidizing other people in Port Edwards with our tax money. Like, and I heard this, I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard when the taxes for us almost doubled, that other people's taxes in Port Edwards didn't go up at all. So why are ours almost doubling and why are other people's taxes not even going up at all? I guess I would just be, I would like to better understand and I would like to learn more about the whole thing with the taxes. Because I don't know, maybe if I knew more, I would better understand and maybe I wouldn't be so upset and frustrated. I don't know. Sorry, that's it.
Okay, no, that's all right. Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, everybody, first off and foremost, thanks for your service to the community. I know it takes a lot of effort on your part, especially, when dealing with stuff like this that is challenging, and we all want the best for the community. It's just, I'm not going to really probably add anything additional to what all the folks on the east side have already said. I also live on the east side. I'm at 1361 East Shore Trail. I think I was actually the third house on that side back in 2017. Really, my concern is that, and I could be mistaken in my facts, but I don't have as much detail as the fine job that Larry did. But if my understanding is correct, that the village has actually gotten 80% of the property tax over the last 10 to 11 years. And then this past, year, it actually then got the other 20%. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is my assumption in that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now I guess the question is, so you're getting the other 20% of the tax. Our taxes went up more than 50%. I have an empty lot that I'm now paying $3,600 a year on, which in my mind is ridiculous. And really the only service that I've really received is, like Teresa said, I get my branches picked up if I want. I used to have better, waste removal service with Saratoga with the previous contract. And now I can only get recyclables picked up every 2 weeks. The services and the taxes just do not equate. And I don't understand exactly why that's the case. I got to believe that there was a windfall that came into the village of Port Edwards, not only with the 80% that you were getting before, but the 20% that you now got, while our taxes went up 50%. So it seems to me that we are subsidizing a number of other residents in the village of Port Edwards, especially when I don't think that there's been a lot of reassessments of property throughout the village. That just doesn't seem fair to me. I share Teresa's frustration. My frustration is getting to the point of anger, looking for potential other avenues if we can't come to a mutually beneficial solution to what it is that we are experiencing on the east side. And I would just ask for everyone's serious assistance and support and help in helping us at least get the services that we're paying for. And we should be getting quite a bit of service for the tax money that we're actually paying. It's freaking ridiculous what we're paying. So that's all I really have to say, other than the fact that I've also been blessed with my homeowner's insurance being canceled because it was my understanding there was going to be a fire station that was going to be built outside of the east side on Town Line Road, because now I don't have homeowner's insurance with my former company or with my former insurance company, because now they say that the fire station is too far from my house. So they have canceled my insurance. So we're dealing with a lot of issues. We're dealing with what we all see on the east side as a lack of service, and would appreciate anything you can do to help support us on the east side, as I think that economically, all the money that we've brought into the village and to Port Edwards, and to Saratoga and to the surrounding area, you can't argue with, everything that we're contributing economically to the whole community. So I'd appreciate any help that you guys could come up with. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you. and obviously we've taken notes and this will be, this is being recorded, so we can go back and we can look at some questions and see if we can, try to answer some of you either individually or as a group. If you do have questions, always reach out, like, you don't have to just come to meetings, like, we're all accessible. I've gotten plenty of emails. So, I mean, always don't hesitate to do that too. I think there was a lot of misunderstanding, especially in the beginning. I've learned a lot since, the east side, I don't know how else to say it, has come back. But I think if we continue to have open conversations and for understanding purposes and try to explain things, that might be helpful as well. Does anybody else want to say anything? John, did you?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. It looks like you wanted to.
John Moshausen, live on 1740 Fly Rod. The one comment I had, and it was part kind of by Scott, was driving down here, I passed a house that was for sale here in the village, and it's selling for $340,000. Its full market value, according to the tax levy that I saw, was $230,000. And the taxes paid last year was $4,500. So those, I don't know what Scott talked about, how the assessments have been or when they've done. According to what I read, it was assessed in 2025, which doesn't make a lot of sense. If it was assessed at that $220,000 assessment on a house that's selling for $340,000. So that's another bit of frustration that we see is, you know, we look at the values of the homes and what the taxes they're paying. It's not even close to what we're ended up paying on the east side. So that was my comment there. I don't know how the levy limits work. I don't know how all the mill rates work, but it just doesn't seem like it's comparable from one area to the next. Thank you.
Thank you. We did, just so that everybody's aware, we did have a reassessment in the village last year for homes. So just so that, I mean, that was recently. As for why houses, I have no idea how any of that real estate stuff works. So that is not a me question. So, we're done with public comment. Number 4, village president's comments. I just want to say thank you to those who have come and voiced their opinion and being able to come and talk to us. I think even though sometimes it's hard to hear things or sometimes we might not agree with what you were saying because there's a miscommunication or whatever. I do appreciate you guys coming in and speaking, and so that we can have that open dialogue and we can continue these conversations and see what we can do. Because that is our job for those of us around the table. That is our job, is to be able to talk with you guys and listen. I want to thank Ben and Diane and our department heads for building this budget that we're going to be going through here in a minute. It's not easy work. Some numbers come in late, like this last week. We were still getting in the health numbers and stuff like that. So trying to also kind of work on the fly. I appreciate all the work that they do to keep this budget going, conversation going as smoothly as possible. So with that, we will go into number 6, the budget discussion.
So first of all, everybody's online that's here. Larry knows, you know, my phone line's open 24/7, 7 days a week. I talked to Larry last night. It was 6:30, right? So don't be afraid to give me a call. I'll find the facts. I don't just tell you what you want to hear. I go back and do the numbers, do some research. So please get a hold of me or Diane at the village office. We'll definitely help you understand the taxes, the way things are, right? It's not always, I'm not saying I agree and you're gonna agree the way it's done, but obviously we follow through what the government rules are when it comes to levies and taxes and creating all that stuff, right? The village itself creates the budget, but we're given guidelines which we can spend, what we can spend, what we can do with the money. So it's not that we can't just raise taxes whenever we want. There's levy restrictions and a lot of different things that the government puts in place that we have to follow. And please, it's a lot to understand, and definitely reach out so we can sit down and try to give you some understanding of how it comes. And do the best we can. We want to communicate with everybody, be upfront and be able to work together on moving forward with these conversations. So the budget we have in front of us tonight, it's been through the department heads. We've had a committee of the whole meeting. I'm just gonna hit some of the high points. If anybody has any questions, feel free to slow me down. I'm just going to look at the areas that we had why there's an increase in certain areas. To me, that's the most important, to have that conversation as a board and a committee of what happened, why did we have to change this, what do we have to do? So the first section, you look at IT for information. If anybody knows, we had to increase the IT department. We're getting a new website that we're gonna be hopefully releasing here pretty soon. So there was an increase there. Our server, we're in the process of getting a new server and new computers for our staff. Very timely needed for that. So, when it comes to that budget line, there is a $4,000 increase in general governments, and that comes from the IT department is really where the biggest increase was. If you move into the public safety, if you look at the police department, last year, we had a $27,000 wage adjustment due to replacing a police chief. Didn't know where that was going to be as the year went on. So this year, there's a reduction in the police budget of basically $19,000, and that's due to getting a chief and not having to pay two chiefs double time last year for training and things like that. So that's why there is a deduction in the public safety police department of $19,000. Now, we did, obviously, this year's budget is crucial, trying to building funds for vehicles in the future, right? We need replace older vehicles, so we're looking to get a new cop car in 2 years, so we're looking at budgeting 10 grand away to purchase a police car in two years. The next line item is the fire department, which we stayed pretty status quo, I mean, within a couple $100. Obviously, just underneath the fire budget, you see the ambulance expenses, right? We're budgeting $47,000 this year. Just from who was here speaking, we know that that's looking to almost double, right? He's saying $56 per capita, but there's also cost of living in there. And so in 2 years, where is that going to be? So that number we'll keep working on that, discussing that for the future, how we can come up with, that service and where that money is, how we can move things around, what we can do. The Public Works Department, when you look at the big picture of that, it was a $55,000 increase in budget completely. Where did that come from? You look at street machineries. If it's maintenance or it's capital, there's a $58,000 increase in that line items. Last year, we were looking to be creative, looking for some expenses, so I took the heavy equipment expenses and chopped it down to 40,000, and I'm paying for it right now. So we had to bump that back up to keep machinery maintained. Just to name the wear and tear, we all go to the auto shop or change oil and get gas. We all feel the same pain every day of the week. Capital improvement.
Ben, can I just ask you a quick question about the roads? Does that include anything for our roads over in on the east side?
Those are all obviously Nepco Lake Road and Town Line and Sampson and Range Line are the roads that we maintain over there.
Okay, well, I just want to throw it out there. I mean, our roads are in bad shape. Larry may have mentioned that, but our roads are in bad shape. And, with everything that we're paying in taxes, I think the right thing to do is put some of this tax money towards fixing our roads. So I don't know how we go about that and how it impacts the budget, but I'm just throwing it out there because I know our roads are
situation.
They're kind of falling apart.
Yep.
So what we can, like I said, after this is done, if the board would like to discuss the roads through the Nepco Lake development, we could discuss that at a more of a discussion level.
Thank you.
So again, the public works budget, when it comes to complete, has a $55,000 increase. Like I said, 58 of it came from maintenance and putting money in a heavy equipment fund to replace a dump truck in 2 years. A new dump truck is roughly $207,000. So we're basically, the village has always been very committed to buying vehicles without taking loans out, as you see in the police cars. We've always saved money when it comes to public works. we've always been able to save money and purchase the vehicles without taking loans out. So that is in the public works budget. If you go through, the parks, beach cultural, recreation, education, I talked to briefly before. The wages to maintain the parks had to have an increase, right? They're to mow, to maintain, to things that it's with the good summers we've been having. We've got a lot of parks in town. It takes a lot to maintain those. So that's where there was a wage increase of $12,000 to maintain those parks. That's where that's at, and that's referenced. I know, Larry, we had a conversation last night on the phone, and that's, I guess what I say is it costs some money to maintain services at a high level, and that's one of that we talk about, right? People rent the parks, people use the shelters, and we're known for well-cleaned parks. You know, that's a discussion we can have in the future, but you know, to keep those up, to maintain, to mow them twice a week, you know, it takes manpower, and so that's where there's an increase for that. We can get into revenue side, which is pretty, there's really not a lot of big changes in revenue. You know, again, that's the taxes, the state road aid, all that stuff is basically done through the state. The village has no control over that. We do our reports, do our information that they need to follow through with those revenues. Not much in change there. Look at license and permits, you know, there every year there's been an increase there. We seem to be getting more. If it's remodels, if it's new homes, you know, we've got new homes all through the village. You know, I'm not here, I don't want to categorize any more east side, west side. I mean, throughout the whole village, we're seeing homes built no matter where you live. So that's good to see. You know, the past couple of years, we haven't had a lot of net new construction. I know it's a big conversation. I don't want to get brief in it. Anybody can call me. But, you know, over these years, the village did not receive any of the net new construction. And now we're receiving that net new construction. So that's some positives moving forward. You know, net new construction is definitely a way to bring more revenue in, to be able to adjust the tax levy and things like that to try to help move forward. Public charges, services, no really change there. Comes to miscellaneous. We're all relevant. It's donations and things like that. We're definitely no big changes there. So then we can go to the final sheet, the summary sheet. Obviously, we're still missing some bits and pieces. And I'm learning this as we go, right? So Diane can probably step in if there's anything I'm out of line on talking. You know, if you look at our allowable levy down in the bottom left corner, you know, that's what, you know, there's worksheets that Diane fills out. That's where those numbers come from. And then allowable expenses, the same thing. That's all regulated by the government. You know, we can't just say we want to spend $3 million. It's all regulated what we can spend. If you look across in the middle where it says budget and increments, you know, the village of Port Edwards, last year's tax rate was 816. We're projecting at 834 this year. The only numbers we have actually in so far is Mid-State, which went up from 0.71 to 0.74. The schools, Mid-State, our school, the state and the county have not given our numbers yet. So we'll be waiting for those numbers.
We deal with that on Wednesday, week from today.
You know, and this isn't a shot. I'm a Port Edwards on the school board. I support them 100%. You know, when the person gets their tax bill, you know, the schools, the Port Edwards schools and the other ones definitely are big players in your yearly tax bill. So, you know, it doesn't all go to the village. Or the referendum last year for the school, which did change some things. I'm just saying this on my own breath. I don't know if it's exactly true, but you know, people did see a different change in our mill rate last year. But then when the school referendum came in, everything kind of basically took that away and there was no big decrease in taxes. I know when you guys are here discussing, some of your concerns, why didn't, how did the taxes double? And I don't know the number offhand, but I believe the mill rate in Saratoga was in the mid fours and the village of Port Edwards is in the eights. I think Rapids is right around the eights until the nines. I'm not exactly sure. Again, this is just me. I'm not using that, research because I don't know those numbers, but that's where when you talk about why your taxes, what happened, I mean, the mill rate, it doubled. I mean, that was nothing the village did on purpose. That was just how the mill rate's always been. I believe, if I look back, 2020, I believe the village mill rate was almost $20 or something. Diane, do you remember? It was close. So, we've definitely have gone the right direction. So I guess I know people aren't happy the way the taxes are now, but thank God it's not at $14. So I guess when it comes to the budget at this point, definitely we've got a couple more days for input that this has been out to everybody looking for suggestions, thoughts. So please get a hold of Diane or myself. We can have discussions tonight over any line items anybody would wish. But I feel this.
Hey, Ben.
Yep.
Hey, Ben. Hey,
I guess we can talk.
where are the areas?
I guess I would, excuse me,
I'm sorry.
Scott, just because this isn't public comment time, this is kind of like where us as board members kind of go through the budget. If you have
Okay.
additional questions, you can either bring them to the next meeting or you can feel free to get a hold of Ben,
no
not during the
problem.
Yeah, give me
Thank
a
you.
call tomorrow or this evening, whatever you'd like.
Okay.
So what is it looking like in the final analysis, that magic little percentage number that everybody likes to hear between 2025 and 2026? Are we down 1%? Are we up 1%?
So if you look at it right now,
Seems to me.
816, 834, if we basically spending our allowable levy, it should be 2%, right, Diane? Please, 2% increase?
Mhm.
Yeah, 2% increase.
So is this, you talked about, you budgeted 22% increase for health insurance. Is this the updated number?
Yep, everything is included in this.
And it came in at 21 and change, I think you said.
2136.
So it was a good guess.
Thanks for bringing up that. That's.
Yeah, things don't change here. End of the year estimates, if things come in higher and lower, that's why there's always a little bit of fluctuation, waiting for some bills to come in. But this is obviously, we're getting pretty close down to, publishing this to have the public hearing come in December.
Any budget related questions for Ben or Diane?
Yeah, I'd like to speak, please. I want to thank the citizens who spoke up. They echo what I have experienced with many of the members of the NEPCO Lake who are Village of Port Edwards citizens. I'm going to position kind of how I see things. How I see things is that we created another budget that is status quo. And the mindset was, we're gonna do everything we always have done, and this is what it's gonna cost. So I echo the concern about how much people on NEPCO Lake are subsidizing several things that we don't use at all. Let me start by naming them. First of all, we subsidize the roads. The roads is the end of the discussion. Sorry, Teresa, but we spent a lot of time looking at that. It was set up so that the Port Edwards would never have to take the roads over. And there's nothing we can do about that at this point. So we're subsidizing all the public works related to roads. We're subsidizing the wastewater facility because we have our own septic system and water supply. Totally anything that is budgeted for residents for that. Frankly, I don't understand. We charge people for the water that they use metered, but we charge everybody for the parts of the wastewater thing. And I think that doesn't make sense to me. we're charging people have no use for that at all. So that's another thing we're subsidizing. We're subsidizing the parks and rec facilities. Why would somebody travel 12 miles, 18 minutes to come to a park in the village of Port Edwards if they're in Nepco Lake when they can go to the county park that's 2 to 3 minutes away? So we're subsidizing that as well. We're subsidizing the tax rate for cars as well, because people don't come here other than me 3 or 4 times, 5, 6 times a month to come to meetings. I don't see a lot of cars from Nepco Lake coming here. I think that, and how much time have we spent as a board thinking of anything, as Larry mentioned, some creative ideas other than a status quo budget, the way it's always been done, same line items, just adding costs to each one of those without recognizing the stuff that people who are providing over 20% of the total tax revenue that's generated by the village is coming from people that aren't using it. So where is the growth coming from? I'd be interested, Ben, how many of these homes that are being sold or built are done outside of Nepco Lake? How many of those in the village proper?
We had 3 in the village of three this year, total, so.
Okay, so, I go online with Zillow last week, just happened to do that, and see that there are now 12 lots that are in the municipality of the village of Port Edwards that are for sale on the lake. 2 new homes will come up by the end of the year here that I'm aware of on the east side. If you're looking for more revenue, you're looking for more homes to be built, there are lots available. There's places to do that on the lake, and all we're doing is ignoring the fact that we're building more revenue capability for village, but we're not getting any of those services. And I really just don't understand how we haven't even spent a minute talking about, do we value the lake as a property that 80% of it is within the village? We haven't talked about that at all. I'd like that. In December, I want to ask each one of you, what are your thoughts about that? If we value that, where's our investment in the lake? There at this point, there's none other than a couple of people on the board who have participated in the Lake District, but there's $0. So who pays for the lake? The residents of the lake, on top of the taxes that are given here. And I don't understand, again, how we're ignoring that by saying, well, the budget is the way it is, and that's the way it's always going to be. The last thing I will say is we have no current board goals for the village of Port Edwards. The last thing I got was when I came to the board last year, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals and the mission. I want to read what the mission says, and I know you're going to tell me, well, that really wasn't the mission, it was Boz's mission, but it's still in print. And the mission is, the village of Port Edwards provides exceptional services to all residents equally, incorporating detailed and transparent messaging and including citizen input. This is all done with a dedicated, professional, ready and relevant staff. Now, I will say that last part is absolutely true. It is done with a dedicated group of people. They are professional. They're very relevant in the staff and so forth. So that's not a cut on anything that the staff comes from. But to put this out there, that's a travesty. And we either got to get rid of it or something, but we have no goals other than to status quo how we're running the village as board members. And I think that is something that we've got to address. We have no strategy other than keep doing what we've always done, same way we've always done it. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
I
Just to
guess
touch on it,
I'm just kind of curious.
this is for board members only right now.
Oh,
Because
I'm
public
sorry.
has gone, no, that's
Sorry.
fine. Just touch on a couple things, that Eric has brought up. I mean, all year long, we all have an opportunity to have input to do something different. So I don't want people to get this implication that we are, just copying and pasting. I think we have opportunities to do that every single one of us throughout the year to kind of put in like and think outside the box. As for the water and wastewater, saying that, you guys don't get the water and wastewater. I don't either. And I live in the village. There's a lot of us that do. So it's not just you guys.
Understood.
I'm not here to argue. I'm just making some points so that there's clarification.
Understood.
There are village residents in the village proper.
Yeah.
That are in the same situation. When it comes to the parks that you guys won't drive 12 minutes, 18 minutes, whatever.
12 miles.
12 miles, 18 minutes, to come visit parks. Young families do this all the time. When I have kids, I would drive to Point. So that to me, no offense, is an irrelevant point. Because if you want to use the parks, you'll come use them and it doesn't matter how far they are. Like I drove to Point to use parks. I've driven into Rapids to use parks. So families that want to go visit different parks, just because a village member isn't using a park, I don't think we just scrap the parks. If what I'm saying, it makes sense. Those are just a couple things right off of that I made notes on. We've had conversations and I'm open to having more conversations when it comes to the mission statement. Yep, I copied and pasted it from what the previous administrator has done, because when we would do the Saturday get together, big meeting. And you know what? Yep, I really didn't do a lot this year with it because nobody wanted to come to it. So I didn't put in the effort that way for the board that way. I could have done it better. And maybe this year we can get back onto doing a strategic planning, because I understand you want to have board goals. And I think that's important for us as a board to sit down and talk about them at that strategic meeting, but we can't necessarily set up board goals and then project them on somebody like down the road. Like we can't necessarily just say like, these are the goals, even though I might not be in the seat. We all might not be in that seat in 4 years, however that comes out. So we can't necessarily, because it might be a completely different ideas and they might hate all of our ideas and go that way. But I do understand what you're saying. We can this year try to make sure that we do a strategic planning meeting at some point, maybe not to the grandiose way it was when we met, when it went to the Mead. I think that was overkill. But then I also want a commitment from board members to actually show up, because nothing on my end is more frustrating than a year or two ago, putting in a lot of effort, coordinating people to come, doing all this stuff, and 2 people show up.
I totally agree with that.
And so that's just food for thought, is that if we're gonna do this as board members, we all need to be doing this as board members, not just 2 people showing up.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's just what I have. I know, we can continue these conversations. We have a lot of input from a lot of residents and other things that we do have to talk about. But I do want to thank all of you for doing this. It's not easy. This part of the year kind of is always not fun, because you have great ideas and then you get back down to the reality of things. And it's like, well, that's not gonna work. We have to pay for this. We have to do this. These are the things we have to do. Like when we have to pay for things, we have to pay for an ambulance service, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We have to, there's some things we have to legally provide. And as you all heard, that is increasing substantially. So that now we have to take money from somewhere else to put towards that. So those are the decisions we have to make on a regular basis. It's not easy. Coming up with ideas for different things is fun. Yep, some of the stuff with Nepco Lake, our hands are tied with some of that stuff. And
How are they tied?
when I'm talking about the roads, some of the decisions that were made before a lot of us were at this table.
Peace on that.
Right, but I'm just saying, for understanding purposes, some of those things we didn't decide, some of those things we can't change. And we just have to figure out other ways and keeping those lines of communication open and having conversations I think is going to be beneficial going forward. That's all I have. Does anybody else have anything? Mr. Zerflu,
I would,
Go ahead.
I would, what?
Go ahead.
trustee Zerflu, what do you want me to call you? I'm sorry.
I would, highly encourage everybody to, show up for the budget hearing. In my, gonna be 11 years on the board, I think we've had 3 people show up. So that's the one to come to. And, I hope that, those that are viewing will view on that day that we have it, because that's when the budget hearing, the board will approve the budget. For the hearing will, the people at the hearing will move it on to the board, which meets right after that to approve the budget. And you are allowed to make comments, even though they're strictly controlled at that meeting if you don't agree with, I do believe.
What do you mean controlled?
At the
Like
hearing.
public comment?
Yeah, public comments.
Yeah.
In other words, we can't get in a debate on something.
Yes.
That they can state their
Yes.
position. So mark that on, what is that, December 3rd,
You're testing.
first Wednesday?
Yes, December 3rd.
Yeah, and that's at 6, Diane, or 6:30?
7:00.
Well, we usually do like public hearing at 6:30 and then we do board meeting, isn't it?
I suppose same time.
Hope to see you there.
We'll put it out.
Thank you.
Anything else? Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for speaking today. I know this is a difficult process for everybody. And I'm first year, coming on my second year on the board, I learned a lot about tax levies and how we can assess them and not assess them, what we can and can't do. One of the focuses that I joined the board with was to try to increase the tax base, which allows more money to come in, given the high level of services that the village has always been accustomed to. The only way to do that is try to get property and or businesses into the village. One of the my main focuses has been the whole development down in the old mill, the admin building, the research center, the old YMCA, to get that property developed to increase the tax revenue to the village so we can continue to offer services. The distribution of services is a discussion that I think we need to have at some point in time. But to try to increase the tax levy, you can't just raise taxes and increase the amount that you can collect. It has to be governed by the state statutes. So the focus, there has been a plan, there has been a lot of work trying to get that, although sometimes it feels like we're pushing a rope. Trying to get DMI moved, try to get property developed. We don't have money to get it demoed. If we could get that property developed, there would be a significant influx of tax revenue. So there has been effort in all of that. It's kind of goes underneath the water line, but there has been a significant amount of resources and effort put in to try to get at least that property developed. So thank you.
Anybody else? No, we have what do we have for meetings this week?
FHR.
FHR is tomorrow and then board meeting is next week.
Tomorrow?
Hmm?
You're coming now?
Juan never got back to me.
Oh.
I don't know what he wanted.
He had mentioned asking you
To fill in up for FHR.
Again, anybody that's online or here, please feel free to call me.
Yep.
That I can answer any questions, come up with the data. Does a good job, we'll come up with the data. We're not just gonna tell you an answer over the phone. So give us a couple days with your request and we'll try to come up with it as long as it's information that we have in staff, right? There's some questions that we don't have. We can't come up, even if it's open records request, we can't come up with information that we don't have in front of us.
You're gonna be there tomorrow night?
Yeah.
And you're on that?
Yeah, Lon asked me to
Sure.
serve as chair in his
Yeah, so
absence.
you got 3 anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's right.
that's fine. Without objection, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:24.
Thank you, everybody.
Meet tomorrow night.
FHR. So